What are our predictions for the major NBA awards? Who will be on the hot seat? How will the conferences shake out? The only question left is, say it with me, you win. Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown Podcast. As always, it's Monday, joined by Coach Dave before NBA. My voice is a little bit cracky because I went to the Dodgers-Cubs game and watched some red-haired animal jacking all the runs and just nail the final walk-off homer. Ugh.
Yeah. I didn't even know you liked baseball.
You know, I grew up down the street from Wrigley Field, so I have some, Cubs blood in me. But, I don't often pay attention much to it. But I had never gone to a Cubs playoff game, believe it or not. Back in 84 and 89, you just simply could not get a ticket. Wrigley had maybe 36,000 seats total. Now I think it's over 40. They have more space. But even still, it's an impossible ticket in Chicago. But, yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I had a good time. A lot of Cubs fans there. But we're here to talk about some NBA, right?
Yeah, although real quick, I do want to say, I love Dodger Stadium. There's a certain feel to it. Feels like an old school baseball stadium.
I
like it. I like it. I used to be a huge baseball fan.
Doesn't compare to Wrigley Field at all.
I've never been to Wrigley Field.
Oh, yeah. Well,
no. I mean, I'll go at some point just because I have to. But it reminded me a lot of the feeling that you got from watching a game at old Yankee Stadium. I think that those old stadiums had something and maybe it's just nostalgia, although I'm not a nostalgic person.
Yeah.
I think that when they built those, it was more about watching the baseball game than the newer stadiums, which are all about the multimedia experience.
Yeah, well, the Dodgers certainly have a lot of that too, and remember they built the Chavez Ravine in the '60s, and so it's kind of got that freeze-dried '60s Southern California thing.
That fits. See, that works though for California because it feels like late '50s, early '60s California, and that's awesome. When I come to LA, that's what I want to feel.
All right, because it never rains in Southern California. That's how I feel. So, well, anyway, NBA. We are excited about the NBA season started, I think, right? Starting
we are.
One day.
I broke out the scotch for this podcast tonight because I'm so pumped for the NBA to start and for my life to be over.
Yeah, right. It's time for our regular lives to take a pause or hiatus for the season. So, I mean, I'm excited, and things are on par to be an awesome season and really exciting and really fun. A lot of teams are going to end up, having radically different seasons than they did last year, I imagine. And it looks like one of the players at least will not get a chance to enjoy the fun to begin.
Yeah, the CJ McCollum suspension. It's a shitty situation, right? Yeah. The league is kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. It was pretty clear when you watched the video, CJ wasn't coming out there to fight. He never even looks at any of the players from the Suns, and he's trying to get Swanigan out of there. Now, with that being said, I mean the rule is the rule, I guess. I guess unless you're in the entertainment business like the NBA is. And taking, one of your marquee players, he's a top 25 player, taking him off the court for opening night, that's a big deal. So, I get you need to have some rules, but I also think, I don't know, for the business, right? You got to be mindful of who you're suspending and what the actual situation is. I don't think you can just have everything be black and white.
I just think that it's so important for them to keep these guys on the bench if they're not in the game, and to have as few people as possible involved. Because I could get it. He wanders out there and he's not even close to the melee or whatever, but another guy takes a swing, misses, and then nails CJ. Now he's out for whatever because he wandered. And so I get it. We saw it happen. Obviously, the biggest issue was when Boris Diaw and Amari Stoudemire came off the bench in Phoenix, and that basically torpedoed their title chance. That would have been their title season. And, and there was no wiggle room. I had Stu Jackson on the show last year, I think, to talk about it. And, it was the toughest decision they had to make, but it was very cut and dried for them. it's weird because it's usually you see those things and the assistants are always boom like they're like an arm rope together all the way through and no one gets past them on the court. I guess they're not quite in regular season form yet to do that, and it'll serve as a good reminder. And it's the first game as opposed to any playoff game or that kind of thing. So I think there's some solace there, I suppose, for CJ.
Yeah, and I love CJ's response where he, recalled his history of violence in the NBA. And,
right.
But
he
again,
might have
with
thrown a
these
towel
rules,
on the ground really hard once.
has he even had a technical? I'm sure he has. Everybody gets technicals, but still, like CJ is one of the more mild-mannered guys.
Oh, absolutely, and I think he's going to have a great year. I mean, we're pushing the boundaries towards guys shooting threes better at a high level, at a high volume. Which is interesting because I'm going to do a video on this as far as the sort of the history of the three-pointer and the shot selection of the three-pointer. Because the three-point percentage, I believe, overall hasn't really budged much for a long time.
Yeah, it's still right around 36%, right?
Yeah, and it's like you would think that as we progress into this new era, part of the deal would be that they would go up, and I think that part of the reason why they aren't is that we are shooting 15% of these shouldn't be shot. They're just being shot for the sake of a three.
Right, a lot of really tough contested shots. Like we talked about that with Harden quite a bit. Like his 3-point percentage looks a lot worse than it would be if he were just taking normal shots. But a lot of his are these step backs and things like that. End of shot clock, hand in the face type of deal. Mm-hmm. You talked about a lot of teams improving. Is this going to be I can't think of another season where so many teams, at least on paper, got so much better. It seems like the variance for this season between, how the league ended in April, right, and the roster turnover of guys who are marquee players. I think this has to be like the most busy summer of all time, right?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, certainly so many top 20 players move teams. And again, all in the West pretty much except for Hayward. I guess, and Kyrie stayed in the East as well. But other than that, it's a big shift. So yeah, and I mean, we talked about this before, but the sad thing, not the sad thing, but is that the Warriors probably did better than anybody else anyway with what they needed. They were probably as successful. I mean, this guy from Oregon, Jordan Bell.
Jordan Bell.
Oh my God!
It's another Draymond.
As soon as they get tired of Draymond, or they don't want to pay Draymond, they'll just plug him in, and they're not going to miss a beat, And it's obviously they're not going to be able to replace Steph and KD like that, but they still have Steph and KD for 5 more seasons or something like that. So it's who knows how that's going to work? Clay or Draymond, those guys start to move out. Then you got McCaw and you got Jordan Bell taking their place.
He's a bigger, faster, more athletic Draymond Light.
Right.
And kind of like the perfect guy, which now, this is something I actually meant to text you the other day when I watched him just come in and explode. He dropped 11 points at 3 minutes or something. Mm-hmm. Now, this is not going to be one of those things where I'm like, well, maybe they trade Draymond, because of course you do not trade Draymond. Draymond is probably the 10th best player in the league. But is this a situation where they should really consider going almost exclusive? I mean, they could go small ball now.
Oh, yeah.
So much longer. Now I get it; he's a rookie and stuff like that. But I don't have the numbers in front of me. But Draymond was only playing 6 to 8 minutes as a center last year. I wonder if Steve Kerr, because Jordan Bell's a little bit bigger, I mean 6'9", mm-hmm. I wonder if he might be willing to go more minutes with Bell at center. And does that unlock something completely? Do you get to go Curry, Thompson, KD, Draymond and Jordan Bell, and just have a juggernaut? I mean, that could be the super death lineup, right? I don't even know if they could come up with a name for that.
Yeah, and that would be a great experience for Bell to be part of that when they have a 12-point lead in the second quarter and they're kind of running out there. I would imagine Bell plays 10 minutes a game, 12 minutes a game.
Smart.
And, it's probably where he's going to be around-ish. I mean, it depends on what happens with JaVale and the other big guys. But, in that 12 minutes, right, he probably gets at least half of those, I'd imagine, at the center or something like that with a run. So, yeah, I hope that they get fun with that because, again, that's what we're moving forward anyway. Let's get to the future now and see what happens with that because, that's going to be what's going to happen. A guy like Jordan Bell will be a center in a few more years. that kind of body type, that kind
I
of
think
size.
he's a center now.
Yeah, you're right.
After we're done with this podcast, I'm totally going to fire up 2K and play with that lineup because I want to see it.
Nice. So, but like, across the board there in the West, though, it's going to be, I mean, listen, we say this every year about it being a bloodbath, but oh my God, it's like, like a team like OKC, I think you feel like they're going to be better than maybe I feel like they're going to be.
Well, I mean, I just think that one of my, and I talked about the Rockets with this as well. It's the variance, right? I think that they're going to be, their ceiling is so much higher than what they could have achieved last year. Mm-hmm. And their floor is, I think their floor is exactly what they did last year. I think it's like 46 or 47 wins. That's the floor of that team, just because there's so much talent.
Right.
And I think talent finds a way, just like life.
Just like dinosaurs.
Shout out Steven Spielberg. But I don't know if they're the 3 seed or the 4 seed. It's tough to take it away from San Antonio, but we don't know what's going on with Kawhi, with this quad. We don't know if this is going to be something that's going to linger. We don't know if this is something that Pop made up so that he can sit him, for the Christmas Day game. We don't know. And I think that's going to be that's the difference between the Spurs winning 58 games and 53 games is how healthy is Kawhi. I mean, if Kawhi for some reason is out until January, which we haven't heard anything. You haven't heard anything, right?
Nope, nothing.
Okay.
They won't say anything, and they will never do.
Exactly. So we don't know anything, but let's say that's worst case scenario. He's out till January. Reggie Jackson had a similar issue last year, and he was out for a while, and probably should have sat longer. But we don't know the severity or anything. But if he's out till January, okay, well now San Antonio might be in that 5th or 6th seat.
Right.
Just because of, the fact that they don't have a ton of top flight talent. I mean, the next best player is LaMarcus Aldridge.
Yeah, who might be a little bit happier, maybe.
For sure, he's going to touch the ball more.
Yeah. Yeah, and he looks good. He looks a little bit more like aggressive. Like certainly not where the disappearing act we had in the playoffs, in a way that, that actually could be good for them because they have a lot of these pieces that we like around him, and they have the system. So in theory, maybe they don't miss too much of a beat, which would be a whole lot of grist for the Kawhi haters out there who would say, look how good they are without him.
Right.
It's not him. So, I don't know. We'll have to kind of see. But yeah, you're right. So the question then is the Spurs are, I think we got to put them in the top 4 if you're really kind of thinking about where they're going to finish in theory. Although don't you think it's possible that these guys end up feasting on each other and they beat each other and they lose each other and they whatever, and you end up getting like maybe behind the Warriors you get 3 teams that are all within a game of each other and they're all maybe like in the low or mid 50s, or like 50 wins each, as opposed to like 56, 53, and 50. They could be bunched together with lower wins.
I don't think they play each other enough for that. I think so. I guess let's just jump into our kind of playoff predictions. This is sort of like a natural way to talk about that. And if you want to start with the West, we can do that.
Yeah, but when we're talking about the predictions, what we can also talk about is when you want to predict who's going to do well that night in daily fantasy basketball.
Absolutely. And this is something that this year I'm going to actually try to get into.
Oh, okay. Well, that means you have to head over to DraftKings.com. Because at DraftKings.com, they have one-day fantasy basketball where you can kind of get in and get out whenever you want. No long-term commitment. It's really simple to draft 8 players for a $50,000 salary cap, and then you get all the points. Like, we all know DFS.
That's right.
And I love it. I love playing because it is fun. Every day it's a new challenge.
Yeah, last year I would have won a lot of money with my Jonathan Simmons and KJ McDaniel predictions. Where they combined to go like 14 of 14 and had some ridiculous stat line.
Yeah.
Do you remember that night?
No.
We were so young then.
I know. We'll always have Paris. And we'll always have DraftKings.com. And, if you use my code, Coach Nick, you play free with the first deposit of to get your share of $10,000 in total prizes. So once you make your deposit, they give you a free game using my code, Coach Nick. and you get in the game. It's really fun, but like the deposit is $5 to get started. But you're going to want to play, and you want to have that deposit anyway going in the future. But then you get that free game that night using my code. So you got to get over there to DraftKings because they really are the best place to go when you want to play this thing. Nowhere else you're going to get the kind of pool and the kind of money possibilities than you go with DraftKings.
Absolutely, it is the best.
It is. There's no better way to turn your love of basketball into cash tonight. This is like the Selozzi Edelson commercials I grew up with, where you always save more money. But so anyway, yeah. So DraftKings, check it out. Coach Nick is the code. Free game after deposit. And listen here, because all season long, we're going to give you really cool insights into how you can win daily fantasy, because we're going to be picking out guys who you wouldn't have thought about or heard, who are cheap, who are going to give you the numbers and give you. That's where remember, that's where you win DFS, right? It's the last last 3 spots on your roster that you only want to spend $800 for, and then you end up getting some diamonds.
Like, think about Kyle Kuzma, Norman Powell.
Yeah, all of our sleepers that we listed right there for you. So, and that's for free. So let's get into it. Let's, who are the guys? Let's go to the East for a second, can we? Because we talk about the West all the time.
Absolutely.
Top 4 in the East. What do you got?
I think I've got Boston, Cleveland, Toronto, and Washington, which I know is boring.
Yeah.
Because it's basically what we got last year. But I think that's just kind of how it shakes out. And I know that you and I differ just a little bit.
Yeah. I want to put the Bucks 3. I'm wanting to see them, take a jump. Now, I know that Parker isn't back yet, and that was the problem with him is that it's a kind of a make or break where there is a version of the Matrix where I think he makes them awesome and they really can compete. But that requires, getting used to him and being able to fit in. And he's been hurt so much now that they don't have that rhythm with him. And can you achieve that in the middle of a season coming back from injury? And that's a real big question mark. And then can somehow Jason Kidd do that coaching thing that will help him with that? Certainly they run a lot of the same actions they've been doing years and years. And so that's a little familiarity. But I don't know. Don't you think it's time for the Bucks to finally make another step up?
Sure. I mean, I think it's going to require Giannis to take another leap, though, and to get up into the top 5 player in the league conversation rather than top 10. That's the only issue is, does he have another leap in him?
Yeah, I mean, and when we saw it by the end of the year in the playoffs, he just ran out of gas, and so that's the other problem is you want to be able to keep him fresh and play him do you play it because remember he's doing so much on both sides. He's young, but do you play him more than 32 minutes a game? I don't know.
Well, I mean, I believe in the Spurs philosophy, and I think Golden State does a good job of this. Keeping all their guys around 30, somewhere between 32 and 34 minutes for their main guys. I mean, you might occasionally see Curry stretch out to 36, 37. Draymond tends to play a few more minutes here and there, but it's weird because you and I talk about Draymond and his conditioning, and I wonder if they do that as a way to kind of just keep him in shape, sort of like Pop used to do with Boris Diaw. Keep him out a little bit longer in a blowout, try to get him those extra cardio minutes. But I'm with you. I think you got to watch those minutes, especially once you get to February, March, and in April, because you want him nice and fresh for the playoffs. But we'll probably know what this team is going to be by January, I would guess. We'll have an idea. If they're setting the world on fire, then we'll know it from the jump. But I think without Jabari, without that kind of scoring, they're going to really need Chris Middleton to step up. And they're going to need Tony Snell to hit shots like he did last year. And I think they're going to need something out of Thon Maker. Or Maker, as his name is probably pronounced. It looks like... I guess Brogdon's going to be the starter at the 1 for the full season.
I'm excited about that.
And so, that's a better lineup than they started last year with. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think the 3 seed is outside the possibility.
Sure.
The realm of possibility.
Way, I just called it up. I want to look at the Bucks record from the time that Middleton came back in February.
Which also is when Brogdon got into the starting lineup permanently.
Okay, that too.
Yeah.
And so over the last, from February 1st until June 1st, through that whole stretch, they went 21-14. That's 60%. So now you're talking about, some really good, that's something to build upon. That's without Jabari Parker. So, they have it there. And by the way, maybe Parker, it would be good coming off the bench, just attacking the other guys. Now their net rating was still pretty razor thin at that point, so they were eking these things out. But either and still, it's a good thing to build on. And so I have high hopes for them. And then the next question is, well, then who gets bumped out of the top four from the other, the Raptors and the Wizards? And I don't know, man. It's like the Wizards didn't do that much to improve. The Raptors are sort of, they're going to just reload and run it back. So I don't know.
Although they're shooting a lot more threes.
Raptors, okay.
In the preseason at least. So it seems like their variance may go up. So they may outperform what we expect if they hit a lot of threes,
Okay, fair enough. Well, we'll see.
Or they may underperform.
I'm not going to really even. I don't want to commit. I'm going to say Raptors / Wizards, and we can kind of go from there. And we'll pick and choose. I'll just pick and choose and pretend I committed now. I'll re-edit this later to make it sound like I'm smarter. Yeah. Should we go through the other awards? What we think is going to happen this year?
Yeah, I mean this is the prediction pod, right? So
Yeah, well, let's do it backwards then. Let's go most improved first.
Okay,
Mip,
who you got?
I'm going to go with Rodney Hood, Mama.
That's it. Damn it.
Why? Was that your choice?
Yeah, that's my choice because his usage rate's going to go up. And I know these awards are based on, hey, this guy went from scoring 13 points a game to 20 points a game.
Right.
He must be the most improved.
Yeah. Nothing to do with the fact that he had the skills and now he's finally getting more chance. But I do feel like he's going to make that jump from, I got to check real quick, but it's probably 14 a game. I think he's going to do the thing that Harrison Barnes did last year. And get to 20 a game. Maybe the efficiency isn't where we want it to be, but I don't know. It's time, and this is it. If he can't do it this year, then I'm gonna have to remove the mama from Rodney Hood, that phrase. But there's been plenty to go around now. There's lots of mamas out there that I'm happy with. So, but that's my choice.
So he scored 12.7 points a game last year.
So there you go.
He only played 27 minutes a game.
Okay.
And I'm looking up.
He was hurt, right? He missed a bunch of games.
Yeah, he did. But I'm looking up his usage, or trying to. His usage last year was 22%. I expect that to be closer to 30. So I bet he's hitting that 20 points a game mark. Yeah. Unless he's not as good as we think he is. I said before, this isn't the first time I've said I think Rodney Hood scores 20 points a game, and I think if he does that, he's the most improved, or he will win the award.
Yeah, and speaking of variance, I think the Jazz have the most variance because they could be in the thick of the 5th seed, or they could be out of the playoffs for all we know.
Yeah, I think I have them as the 8th seed or 7th seed, depending on
Denver,
how things shake out. Well, no, I've got. All right, well, let me just go ahead and do my West because we skipped that and went to most improved. But
we did.
Yeah, I've got Golden State. I've got Houston. I've got OKC, San Antonio as 3 and 4, and I don't know the order. And then I've got Portland 5 because I believe in the Nurkic addition. I think that's a huge thing for them. I've got the Nuggets 6, and then I've got Utah or Minnesota 7 and 8. I don't know how to order that.
Wow.
I think Utah's defense is just going to be so good. And if their offense can hit 15, then they're in the playoffs. If they've got a top 3 defense and the 15th offense, I think they're okay. And this is my thing about Denver. I think Denver could be, 1 or 2 in offense or 3. It's going to be them, Golden State, and Houston. And then if they could just hit 15, 16, 17 in defense, they could win 53 games.
Man, it's a little high for that ranking on defense.
Think about those Suns teams, right?
Yeah.
The 2010 Suns won 54 games with the number 1 offense
and the 15th ranked.
15th, 16th ranked defense. So
but that was the West is probably even tougher now, right? Than even then.
It's insane.
So that's interesting. Listen, I'm all in on Denver, and so they're going to muck it up, and then so now you're shitting on Memphis, and right, they're not going to make the playoffs.
I think Memphis misses the playoffs. I'm worried about a downturn from Conley and Gasol. Gasol's 33 years old.
Yeah,
Conley's 30. They both kind of had career years offensively last year, and Gasol showed some slippage on defense. And is that a trend or was it an aberration? At his age and with his size and injury history, I I don't know. It's tough to tell. They did. I will say this. Memphis played more minutes for guys they can't shoot than any other team in the league. So they will get improvement on offense, but I think their defense takes a step back. And I just don't think they're going to be elite enough in either category to be able to really make the playoffs.
And what you're saying is you have the Nurkic
Trailblazers.
Yes. Did you get that? Did that go over your head?
I have the Nurkic that I just can't scratch. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and certainly if you look at those numbers, they're also very impressive after he got to Portland. And I remember I told you this before, I think, in the pod, when I saw Terry Stotts in Minnesota right after he got traded, and he was as surprised as anybody that they were doing so well and he was fitting in. So yeah, we'll have to find out. I mean, I know CJ is they'll have another one of these stellar years, and Dame's one of those guys that needs to improve his shot selection from three, because I think he artificially keeps that low, but with some of the shots he takes. So we'll see if those things can get factored in and do well. Certainly their offense is going to be great. So I think that's interesting. So I can go with you on that, all that stuff there. I think that, I think Denver is going to muck up everyone's bracket basically. But yeah, and then, I have the same kind of thing, Spurs, Rockets, OKC, and then it's really the Kawhi thing, which, is concerning, but, we'll have to find out if they just, the peak goes on, they get, Aldridge starts to get more usage and starts doing really well. They plug in Bertans and Murray and all these guys, and they start doing really well. And then they're on the same track they were last year, and people start saying, "Oh, look, Kawhi sucks. He doesn't even really help them. They don't even need him."
Yeah, I think that's a definite possibility.
So, let's go back then. That we can focus back over to the Coach of the Year, which might even fold into our discussion we just had on the top four. So, who do you have for Coach of the Year?
I think it's going to be Steve Kerr.
Oh.
Because I think that they're going to win like 70-plus games again. And I just think it's so hard to not give the Coach of the Year to a guy. I don't care how much talent he's got on the team. They win 71 games. I just think it's impossible not to give it to Steve Kerr.
Interesting. Okay.
Brad Stevens is going to get a lot of buzz.
Right. He's going to be, right. He's going to make that next jump, too. He's finally got like a lot of talent on the team. Yeah. So you think that the Celtics are gonna finish above the Cavs again this year?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with Mike Malone.
Wow.
I think they're going to, because remember, there's storylines happen, right? If teams way exceed expectations all of a sudden. And by the way, we're completely sleeping on the Clippers, and we shouldn't, but we can put that away for a second. Mike Malone, because I think that he's going to come up again in another discussion we're going to have in a few minutes in another weird, bizarre way, but I think that he could become that guy. I mean, I'm looking for things to stretch my wings here and make some statements. So, if Denver gets the 5th seed, I feel like he wins the Coach of the Year.
Book it. That would actually be a great bet.
Yeah, and they'll be fun, and they'll have. I mean, Paul will be moving. It'll be, and they'll all the things that you like to see from a young team, and like that especially relate to coaching and how he helps support them and all that stuff. I think will be there. So we'll see. But obviously their biggest issue is going to be, can they figure out the right 5-man lineups to play together. All right, so then we can move on to Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, let's do it.
I got Kyle Kuzma. The Lakers.
No, I've got Dennis Smith Jr.
Are you friends with him? What's going on here?
No, I believe in Dennis Smith, man. And the other thing is, first of all, he's probably going to wind up being the best player from this draft, but he also is going to have the opportunity. He's going to start from day one. He's going to get the minutes. He's going to get the shots. He's going to have the ball in his hands a ton. I think that the way the voters work, right? Like they look at the counting stats quite a bit. He may even be inefficient and turn the ball over a lot, but he's gonna at least 4 times this season he's gonna break the internet with a dunk, and that kind of stuff stands out.
All right, but you're also describing Lonzo Ball.
Am I?
He's going to get a ton of minutes, a lot of usage. He's going to get the ball in his hands, yada yada yada. I mean, he's not going to score like that. I don't
think he's going to be as effective as Dennis Smith.
But at least once a night he's going to throw a dime that the internet's going to break over, right? At least the Lakers fans, Laker internet will go crazy over. So, yeah, I mean, I would. There's no doubt in my mind that Dennis Smith Jr. will have more gaudy stats. His stat line would be better than Ball's. But interestingly enough, they'll probably end up having the same minutes and the same kind of opportunities. But it will be different.
I think Dennis Smith's team is a better fit for him, though,
to win Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, because he's got better players, right? Like
Yeah.
I just think that matters a little bit,
Right, because you remember Ball is playing with some veterans there that can do some things.
Also, a ton of young guys. Like if Kuzma has a good season, does it steal votes from Lonzo? You get what I mean?
Oh, now you're getting into now you're playing three-dimensional chess.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking about the way voters vote when I'm predicting these awards, and with the MVP, it'll be the same way.
Right. Okay. So because Kuzma, I think, can average 14 points. I don't know, 8
6
rebounds,
or 7 rebounds,
yeah, or whatever. I mean, and who knows? Maybe the Lakers surprise and win 34 games and whatever. But we'll have to see. You're right, but the Dennis Smith Jr. thing is a thing. But,
I think Dennis Smith could go 18-9 with like 2 steals.
Right. We'll see.
I mean,
even like Markelle Fultz is going to get a lot of opportunity as well. Although the Simmons thing is going to be
Markelle Fultz is not starting to start the season. They're going to start Jared Bayless.
Yeah, that's too bad, but whatever.
Yeah, I looked into the numbers a little bit, and actually, like the lineups with Simmons. First of all, not a lot of minutes to work with, so super small sample size. But the Fultz Simmons combo was better than the Bayless Simmons combo.
Okay. That's good.
Regardless of who else was on the court.
And I think that Fultz it will struggle. And the free throw line stuff excluded. I just feel like there's enough evidence. Certainly there's evidence of like, wow, he can score. He can do some things. Sure. But there's also evidence of him, like he doesn't handle the physicality well. He can't finish.
Trouble finishing.
Yeah. And so I think that's going to be up and down for him too. And if the free throw thing gets into his head and all of a sudden he's not shooting jumpers, he'll get the Rondo treatment. And, the video says pretty much spoke for what I want to say. It's not the time to be screwing around with it, and this could really affect it for a while, and that's it's even until next summer when we can finally get 6 weeks in a row of just working on it. But
hey, I'm available to fly out to Philly anytime they call. So just waiting on the call.
You and me both. We have MVP to pick. And I don't even know if I have an MVP. I mean, I kind of want to say Steph. I think Steph might actually have a better year than he had. Well, here's the problem. He could have a better year than he had the last couple of years, but he won't win it just because he'd won it 2 years in a row and whatever. So I get it.
Yeah, Steph will never win another MVP because of that.
That's interesting.
Getting the unanimous MVP and then them losing the 3-1 lead, I think that shot it for the voters.
Okay.
But also you got the KD thing, right? So KD is probably going to have a really great season. They're going to take away from each other.
Yeah.
Russ got too much help, and I don't think he's going to average a triple-double again, so he won't win it. Harden got Chris Paul. So Chris Paul, right?
Can I guess?
Yeah, go ahead and guess.
All right. You're going to say Kawhi.
I am going to say Kawhi. It's his time.
Yeah.
It's his time. He actually should have won it last year. I think I've said that, but it was hard to argue against Russ or Harden. But I think Kawhi was the MVP. He got like a lot of people I know that have a vote. They voted for Kawhi. I think Kawhi was on a really good team and basically not going to say he did it alone because they play team basketball, but he was by far their best player.
Yeah.
So I think Kawhi's going to get it this year. Again, this is, health matters.
Yep.
The skill of availability.
There you go. Yes. And you just gave me my good quote, a good Twitter quote I'm going to use tomorrow. So
there you go.
Okay, I can see that. I will accept your Kawhi and just assume that like he'll be healthy enough to play 65 games or whatever it's going to be at least and do what I think. But then again, we have our dark horse Embiid.
Embiid's not going to so they're not going to play him enough for him to actually do it.
Okay. You don't think he's not going to get 29 minutes a game?
Well, not just that, but he's not going to play 70 games. I think 70 games is sort of where you got to get to.
Okay.
So that he's not going to play enough games. They're going to sit him. Any back-to-backs, they're going to sit him. Like he's going to be sitting quite a bit, and we're all going to get kind of frustrated with it.
Okay.
But I think Giannis is got to be up there. If the Bucks are a 3 seed, you got to say Giannis.
Because Giannis is probably going to get 23, 9, 9,
Yeah.
a block and a half.
If he takes the next step, what if he's at 26, 26 points a game?
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, for sure.
For
Yeah.
what he does without the basketball in his hands, like his rebounding numbers, his steals, his blocks.
Yeah, absolutely.
29 would be something, or 26 would be something. And then I think LeBron's got to be in the conversation, right?
Oh, who?
LeBron.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
him.
is this the season where LeBron just says, you know what, I'm pissed? Let me remind everybody.
I don't know. I think this is the season he goes, you know what, I don't want to be tired in the playoffs. And I don't know. It just seems like every year it's less and less LeBron until the playoffs. And by the way, even though I say that, like his averages last year were outrageous as it was, but he did work a lot. He did probably play too many minutes, and I don't think it's going to change much with Isaiah Thomas being out early, and now they're having to deal with the Wade thing. And then who knows what happens with Wade if he's going to be able to handle that. And again, I think we both agree he should be coming off the bench and playing 23 minutes a game. But instead, he's going to start, right? And he's going to probably get up, closer to the 30-minute mark. And I don't know. I just don't know how that's going to hold up. Certainly, I like to, I prefer to assume everyone's going to be healthy, but that's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, like we talk about this quite a bit, and I actually had a little rant about this. The number one feedback I got from people when I said on the last podcast when I talked about Embiid and his Hall of Fame talent and the fact that I think that if he played 70 games, he'd be in the MVP conversation. Number one thing that people brought up was the fact that, he's only played 31 games in 3 seasons. Oh, he can't stay healthy and all this stuff. And it really, we've got, and this is, we could talk about the societal impact of the internet on the human psyche and how it has really caused us to root for the worst to happen to people.
Yeah.
Especially if we happen to disagree with them about any one thing. And a black guy who has money, who happens to also have some confidence and, talk a little shit, it's very easy for people to jump in and root for the worst. Well, that's not me.
No.
That's not this podcast either. Like when we're talking about this stuff, and even Chandler Parsons, right? Like we're rooting for Chandler Parsons. I want him to be healthy.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. It's like
Chandler Parsons of all people. No,
and then they expect him to get hurt. Like I'm like that, and I had to have a FOH tweet on that one because it was just like, get out of here with this. I don't want to hear you like, oh, he's going to get hurt. Like that's not what I want to hear. It's not the language you should be using.
And here's what I'll tell you. No one knows more about his health than the Philadelphia 76ers. And if you look at the language of the contract, at least what we've found out about, when you look at that, the things that they're worried about is the foot injury and the back injury. Guess what he didn't struggle with at all last year? Foot or back.
Right.
He had a meniscus thing that he actually could have just played through.
Yeah.
And they were just super cautious. Well, he probably should have played about 50 games last year.
And one of the other years, he could have played games, and they completely just babied him and didn't put him in at all. So, like, this 31 in 3 years thing is a little bit skewed because they were tanking. And he probably could have played another, whatever that was for one of those years. So, it's all sort of not real, these numbers. So, but again, this is it. This is his chance to get there. And I really hope they get him. I really hope they get him into like at least 65 games. Just get him in there and get his minutes and really change the whole franchise because he will if he gets the minutes. So, should we quickly go through our other awards that we have? The Offensive Path Award. So, who's the first coach getting fired award?
It's tough, man, because I hate like we go from hey, we root for health to hey, who's going to get fired? We don't want anyone to get fired,
right?
In an ideal scenario, I guess everybody's 500, so no one's successful or bad. But then I guess the teams that are supposed to blow people out, one of those coaches would get fired. I hate to keep bringing him up in this, but I think Dwayne Casey might be the guy. Masai's comments about culture change and stuff like that, they didn't really change the roster that much. So where do you get your culture change from?
Norman Powell. It's Norman. Yeah, that's right. I mean, I'm too tired of maybe mentioning him in all these things, hot seat, whatever. So I'm going to go with Doc Rivers.
And I love that. I think not that I love that he might get fired, but I love that pick. I think that losing the GM job kind of tells you where he stands in the organization. He's got this year and next year left on his contract, so he's almost a lame duck, right? And they're not going to work on an extension during the season, so it'd be next summer. I can't imagine he goes into next year with just 1 year left on his contract. So that's an interesting one to watch. And
with this team, though, they actually might be better than they were last year, believe it or not. The way things are looking, and there's some options and some possibilities there, they could be better, which is crazy because they won 51 games and they were fifth in the conference. But again, a lot of people are counting them out and assuming they're going to either drop down out of the playoffs or drop down farther. Something's going to give out there, and I don't know. I just feel like he might end up getting the hot seat pretty soon. I don't know. Any other interesting ones? How about this? How long over under? How long until LeBron subtweets his team?
I'm gonna say Christmas.
Okay, I'm gonna say 40 games, which is after Christmas, right?
Yeah, I think that's closer to the All-Star break.
Yeah. I'll say, you know what? You're right. It's probably going to be earlier.
It's going to be defense related.
Yeah, transition defense or something. Yeah. Okay.
Their transition defense is going to be atrocious.
Yeah. So, which NBA player should get KD to run his Twitter account? Because you have to be somebody who's not good at it, right?
Somebody that's bad at
how about
social
Bogut?
Media. Does Alt Bogut have a Twitter account?
I don't know, but he's got one. Okay. Isn't that where he's sort of talking about this stuff?
I don't know. But yes, if he has one, then yeah, KD. I don't know. I think any of these guys that are not funny, get KD to run the account on a burner account, right? Like second login.
Burner account. Okay.
Second login.
Right, and just make sure to remember which one you're in when you're tweeting. So, well, Dave, another great show. I hope the excitement in our voice is there. We're going to have a live show after the second game on the opening night on Tuesday, right?
That's right. Well, I'm fired up.
We hopefully will have it all set up where you guys can call in and ask questions directly to us.
Yeah. And the opening night games are going to be fun. How do you feel about the Boston Cleveland game? Do you think LeBron's actually going to sit?
Oh, is that what they're saying?
Yeah, well, because he hurt his ankle. They're saying they don't know yet if he's going to play.
I can see TNT. I could see him pussing out and not playing.
No way. LeBron plays.
I feel like he did that last year where he didn't play in some game, right? Am I crazy?
I don't know, man. Opening night TNT. Come on, man. LeBron lives for this.
All right.
And then all right. So let's predict. Who you got in that game? Boston, Cleveland. Who you got? Houston, Golden State.
I'll take Boston and I'll take Houston. I don't know.
Whoa! 2 road victories.
Oh yeah. I don't know. It's hard.
Go the other way.
Because I think Golden State's going to be fired up, but they want to squash this new team quickly and take the conversation out of it. So you're right. You know what? I'm probably wrong on both counts, but I just still feels like because of the abbreviated preseason schedule now. I don't know if teams are going to be ready to go to start the season,
especially these new teams.
Yeah,
Boston has 11 new players.
Right, and so
Houston has a bunch of new players,
and the Warriors, right? So they have a built-in advantage having just a couple who fit in really well. Yep. So and they were already ready to go. Yeah, I mean, all they were doing was just little minor tweaks during the training camp. That's how nice it was for them.
I've got Cleveland and Golden State, and I think Cleveland wins by at least 15. I think Golden State wins by like 30. I think it's going to be a blowout.
Yeah, I think that, and I agree. I think they're going to want to just do a huge statement. So
we're going to be texting about starting the show. Should we start the show early?
Yeah, right. Well, another reason why we know it's a blowout is because we're doing a freaking post-game show.
That's right. That's right. So it's going to be terrible.
So, all right. Well, stay tuned for that, sports fans. We'll be back here again with Dave later on in the week, and we'll see if we're close at all to any of these predictions as we move forward. And don't forget, at B-Ball Breakdown, not a channel, we're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Dave?
I'm all in.